So in section 3.4, we continue looking at system of equations, but now it's system of equations with three variables. And so an ordered triple is where you have the x, the y, the z now a variable in there. For a system with three variables, you will have many solutions possibly, right? Because that means that they intersect in something like this here. So they have a whole bunch of spots, right? So there's just infinitely many solutions. But you could also have no solutions where you have these lines or the planes of the answers to the variables that they don't have anything in common. So you've got a plane here, a plane up here, and then another up here. So there could be no solutions. They have no points in common with all the three planes. So either you have some kind of those three lines that we're going to be looking at, they touch in some way, so there is a solution or many solutions, or they just absolutely exist on, like kind of like parallel planes here, so there's no solutions. So we'll be looking at that. Let's go to your packet. So in your packet, we're on section 3-4, system of equations in three variables. So here's some example of probable questions. So you're going to be looking at, they're going to be giving you instructions like, for example, solve the system. Same thing, same processes that we've used before, but this time we're dealing with 1, 2, 3 equations, and if you notice x, y, z, so there's 3 unknowns. So they're showing you different ways that you can solve these. For example, if I were to multiply this equation by 2, look what happens. I'm able to eliminate the z's, because then 2z minus 2z, when I add these two equations together, that is the result. And so you'll see some more examples like that. So if you notice here on the right hand side, same thing, you're looking at the system with one solution that pops out. So the first equation, then you use the third equation, and so all they did was, if you noticed, multiplied this by a negative all the way across, so that, or you subtract, right? So whichever way you want to see it. But the reason you do that is because that'll eliminate these here, and so that'll give you some smaller equations to work with, and so on. So if you continue the process, you will end up being able to solve for x. Then, of course, once you have the x value, you substitute for the y. I'm sorry, you substitute for the x to solve for y, etc. So the steps are here to follow along. So you can look at the rest of the examples that are in the packet. So when it comes to the actual questions, you're going to see in your study guide and intervention some ways of solving, and so they show you here how to use the equations by adding them together or subtracting them together from each other to solve for some of these variables. So once you solve for one variable, then you're able to go in and substitute and solve for the other variables as they come along. Now I will show you a method on the calculator to enter these equations in case once you get a hold of a calculator, because you can do this by hand, which I would recommend you do these by hand so you can practice till you find the solution. Solve for x, solve for y, solve for z, and that way you can have an answer. But if you do happen to have a calculator, what I wanted to do is also to show you on the calculator just how you can go ahead and do that as well. So give me 1 sec so I could activate the calculator. Okay, so let me show you on a calculator how you would accomplish solving a system of equations. What we're going to do is set up a matrix, and so all you need to do is, of course, turn on your calculator, and then you just go here to, you're going to calculate. So you either press letter A, or you just press this button for the calculate feature. So I need to set this up as a matrix. So that's the first thing you're going to do. So for system of equations, you can set up a matrix really easy by going to menu. And if you notice, matrix is number 7, and I need to create a matrix. So let me go over that one more time. So I'm going to press the keys down here. So 7 matrix, let me go back, menu, 7, create, 1, 1. So in essence, you're going to press menu 711 to get you there. And it's asking you how many rows and how many columns. Well, all you have to do is count from your equation. We've got 1, 2, 3 rows, it looks like. And so columns go up and down. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 columns. So this is a 3 by 4 matrix. Okay, there it is. So all you need to do is put your coefficients. So the 2, the 3, the -1, and the 0. So you either go 2 tab, 3 tab, and then back to the problem, -1, and just be careful, that's minus. This is the -1, and or you could press tab or arrow to the right and then 0. See what I'm doing? You're just entering the numbers from your system. Next one, I'm going to go tab 1, -2, -4, and 14. One last one. So 3, 1, -8, 17. 3, 1, -8, and 17. Once you have that, you can press enter. It is stored into the calculator's memory as an answer. So if you recall in some of the notes that I gave you earlier about solving system of equations, I said GEMS, and M was one of them, where you had to row reduce echelon form. You have to row reduce these numbers to get an answer. And so if you go back to menu, we're still in the matrix, so number 7. And this time, instead, I already created the matrix. I don't need to do that again. But if you notice here, row reduced echelon form is right there. So press either 5 or enter. There, row reduce. Well, what do I want to reduce? That matrix that I entered. So you just press Control Answer, because that answer is always the last answer that was punched into the calculator here. And watch what happens when I press enter. There it is. It's going to row reduce that matrix that I entered, and here's my final answer. Now, how do you read this? I'll explain more about this matrix and the identity matrix. You see how the ones are kind of in a diagonal. We're going to go over that in the next sections. But for right now, the way you read this is, well, look what's happening. If you go back to the problem, the first column are the x's, then the y's, and the z's, then an answer. So I'm going to go back, look at the calculator. Watch what's on. Think of 1 and 0 like binary. It's either on or it's off. So think of 1 as on. So what's on right now? This is the X column. So the X is turned on, Y is turned off, Z is turned off. So X equals to 4. Here the X is turned off, but the Y is turned on. So Y is equal to -1. And then the X is off, Y is off, the Z is turned on. So Z is equal to -1. So the point that all three of these equations have in common is when X is 4, Y is -3, and Z is -1. So I'm going to come back here to the problem and write that answer down. Now this is me doing it on the calculator to check myself. Remember, your objective is to try to solve these by eliminating, substituting, and all of that. So we said 4, -3, and -1 should be your answer when you finish doing the work as they ask you to do it here in the actual demonstration. And you'll notice you have some more problems, some word problems, but essentially problems for you to try that are the same type.